I would like to add my thanks to my noble friend, the Minister, for securing this timely debate ahead of the Goalkeepers Summit in New York this September and the presentation of the UK's Voluntary National Review later this month. When the SDGs were created, they were a bold challenge to the global community to tackle the greatest inequalities of this generation and build a better world for the future. Unlike their predecessors, they were a significant call to action for all to improve the lives of people in every country, regardless of overall national prosperity. When they were created in 2015, they were backed with genuine debate and ownership from each nation, with a comprehensive implementation plan. And the system of national reviews that we have been talking about this afternoon and national strategies for countries mean that the goals were not just a disparate way of tracking progress that may already be happening, but an opportunity for countries to remain focused and accountable for achieving these goals. The SDGs also correctly recognise that it is economic growth that provides the opportunity to build a nation's social well-being, leading to holistic prosperity. Prosperity is about much more than wealth and economic growth. It reaches beyond the financial into the political, the judicial, and the well-being and character of a nation. It's about creating an environment where each generation is able to reach its full potential, and the generations following them are afforded the same opportunity. The evidence shows that the well-being of a nation's people is more closely linked to movements in this holistic measure of prosperity than it is to GDP. A rise or fall in prosperity is correlated with a rise or fall in well-being, but a rise in GDP per capita does not necessarily produce a correlated rise in well-being. To create lasting change, we must create mutually reinforcing prosperity across economic, institutional, and social dimensions, and the SDGs can point the way. In their creation, the SDGs have already driven significant global collaboration and broad consensus from governments, civil society, business, NGOs, foundations, and others. And Norman Vincent Peale is often overquoted as having said, "Shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you will land among the stars." And if we aim for something ambitious, we are likely to achieve ambitious goals, whereas if we aim for a maintenance culture, we will just get more of the same. We still have a way to go to meet the goals, but there is some initial cause for optimism. By the end of last year, 111 voluntary reviews had been conducted by 102 countries, with 47 countries presenting this year, some for the second time. And businesses are increasingly taking the goals on board in their strategies. So 71% of business leaders across North America and Europe were using the SDGs as their strategic North Star in setting their sustainable business agenda, an almost 20% increase on 2016. In the last 5 years, as the SDGs have been activated, 113 countries have improved their prosperity according to the Legatum Prosperity Index, of which I must refer members to the members' register of interest. Globally, the world's business environment has improved year on year, particularly since 2015, making it easier for people to start businesses in many areas, particularly in Eastern Europe and Asia-Pacific region. And there's more equal representation of women in national parliaments now than ever before, and this is steadily becoming more equal in every region of the world. Absolute poverty rates have fallen. The proportion of families living on less than $1.90 a day has more than halved since 2000, and this continues to fall. And living conditions, education, health, and the natural environment indicators have all shown improvements. For example, the dramatic reduction in maternal mortality, which has reduced by 37% since 2000 and continues to fall. But in our drive to deliver the SDGs, it's important to really understand what it is that moves people out of poverty and the sequencing required to create lasting foundations for prosperity. The Prosperity Index has shown that the greatest threat to prosperity is from declining safety and security, that's already been alluded to today. And we see that there is a clear trend of rising insecurity caused by rising war, conflict, hunger, and lack of shelter. And the number of deaths caused directly by war has increased by 58% in the last 10 years to nearly 45,000 in 2018. It is conflict and instability that is playing a significant role in the displacement of 66 million people from their homes around the world, and the number of registered refugees reaching a record high. If we are serious about achieving the SDGs, we should be serious about creating a safe and secure environment for citizens. All 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals are important, but creating safety and security is the cornerstone for the success of all the other areas. When you consider that 62% of those in extreme poverty are likely to be living in countries at risk from high levels of violence by 2030, it is clear that violence poses to hampering the ability, the risk that violence poses to hampering the ability to meet the other Sustainable Development Goals. And this means that Goal 16, to create peace, justice, and strong institutions, is crucially important. Equally important, though, is not just the goals themselves, but really understanding how those goals can be met. What was it that lifted the last 2 billion people out of acute poverty around the world? And what do we need to do to strengthen the thinking that led to that extraordinary achievement so that we can see the next billion lifted too? We must not forget how the greatest anti-poverty achievement in the history of mankind happened in our lifetime. The best answer from mainstream economists on the left, on the right, and in the centre agree the central role that free trade, property rights, rule of law, and entrepreneurship have played. In a UK context, though, our own voluntary national review has thrown light on the fact that the SDGs are universal, and we have made a commitment not only to contribute to them internationally, but deliver on them in the UK. The UK stakeholders for sustainable development said last year that of the 143 domestic targets the UK has committed to meet, the UK is performing well on only 24% of them. This shows that we have a way to go to ensure that we are effectively tackling our own challenges in this nation. The Social Metrics Commission has shown the importance of accurate measurement in helping to understand who is really in poverty and ensuring that policies are genuinely targeting the right people. It is an excellent means of tracking our own progress in meeting the goals by providing a metric which offers a comprehensive and holistic picture of poverty in the UK. The measure shows that there are far fewer pensioners in poverty than previously thought, but clearly highlights the enormous impact of disability on poverty. Almost half of the 14.2 million people who are in poverty at a given moment in time are living in families with a disabled person. And I was in the DWP as a special advisor in 2015 when these Sustainable Development Goals were being introduced. I cannot remember one conversation about them or them being embedded in the department. We need to be effectively measuring and tackling poverty at home as well as abroad. With this in mind, I'm delighted that the government has opted to start the process of taking up the measure as an official measure, and we'll be delighted to see the department use this measure to help us meet our Sustainable Development Goal targets. As we look forward this year, and leaders at the highest level come back together again for the first time since 2015, we must not forget the spirit with which these goals were created. Our response to the SDG should not just be to highlight everything that we are currently doing anyway, which tends to be the way that governments create strategies, a right round as to what we're actually already doing, but to look higher. We have the knowledge and the tools. The ambition within these goals should cause us to reach further, to think better, and to be more ambitious than ever before.
Yeah. My Lord.